Hello and welcome to Behind the Headlines of History, the podcast that takes a look at newspapers.com and pulls some intriguing and fascinating stories out from the pages of history. I'm Brad Argent and I am fascinated by stories and I just kind of fall in love with history.
And hello, I'm historian and genealogist Dr. Michala Hulme.
And what we do is we put our genealogy hats on. Then we dive into newspapers.com and we find the stories that excite us. Now, we both have a very different way of looking at history and a very different way of researching. And it comes out not just in the stories that we choose, but in how we tell you those stories. And I always have the best stories, but sometimes I let Michala feel like she's got better stories.
And if you think my stories are better than Brad's, you think I'm a better researcher than Brad, please let me know in the comments. We honestly love to hear from you, so drop us a little message in the comments. Let us know if you are enjoying this episode. So join us as we go behind the headlines of history.
So what do you got for me, Michala?
Have I got an amazingly brilliant, fantastical story for you this week?
So, Michala, what are the deets?
So this article appeared in the Oregon Daily Journal on Saturday, the 21st of April, 1906. What grabbed me about this story straight away was the headline. Old man, heir to $400 million.
I'm an old man. Am I the heir to $400 million?
I don't know, but if you were, we'd now become best friends. Yeah, so that straight away grabbed me in. So H.C. Edwards of Vancouver will have an income of $8 million a month. What would you do with £8 million a month? I'd have loads of animals. I'd just rescue loads of animals.
A lovely problem to have.
Yeah, my house would be like a zoo. But what also grabbed me was it says he never wore a collar and he won't do so now. So that was just a tiny bit of information about him. So I started digging into this story and wow, this has taken me on a journey I never thought I'd go on. So much so I found myself joining Facebook groups that I didn't even know existed. Yeah, I'm that committed to this story.
Well, I've got so many questions.
Well, shall I keep going?
Please.
Okay. So this gentleman is set to inherit quite a bit of money. The reason he's going to inherit this money is because apparently he is a descendant of a captain of an English sea vessel who earned the gratitude of King George III of England. And in appreciation for that gratitude, he bestowed upon him a section of New York.
As you do.
But it's not just any section of New York. It includes the Trinity Church, Wall Street, and City Hall. Imagine that.
Yeah, just a little bit in New York.
Yeah. The property, or the land should we say, was deeded in 1772 by King George III to Robert Edwards, who is a direct ancestor of Mr. Edwards, who this article is about. Now, apparently, Robert Edwards, who got the land, leased the land, and this is the important bit, 99 years, to the Trinity Church. Okay, so he leases the land for 99 years. In that time, it said that obviously the land has increased so much in value. So if he leases the land, if he gets the land in 1772, you're talking like what, 1881-ish maybe, that this land should now be divvied out between the heirs. The only problem is that didn't happen. So this article that I've been following for weeks now is actually not true. The guy never became a multi-millionaire. He'd now be a billionaire, by the way.
Clearly.
Because Trinity Church, who apparently leased the land off the original Mr. Edwards, has denied that that was ever the case, and there's no documentation to state that they did, or I couldn't find any. So this story has been rumbling on, and by about the 1930s, there was, I think, an estimated something like 50,000 heirs to this estate in New York. So much so that they've set up like little associations all over the place, including in Wales, which is where the original Mr. Edwards is from, to basically try and take the, you know, members of the church to court, you know, to try and sue them to get the land back. But it's just an unbelievable story. I mean, these people, these Edwards descendants, and I've joined the Edwards descendants group on Facebook, like, over the years they've been conned out of money because lawyers have come to them and gone, oh, we'll get your land back in New York. You know, give us some money for our services and we'll get it back. And nobody's ever been able to. So they've been like scammed quite a few times.
There's a few Edwards probably still in Wales. It's a reasonably common surname.
There is. It's such a shame because obviously this gentleman, you know, they tracked him down in the newspaper. He was an old guy. I think he dug wells. That was his job. You know, and somebody's come to him and said, oh, by the way, did you know you're a direct descendant of Mr. Edwards? And, you know that bit of New York that's like got Wall Street on? Well, it's kind of yours. And the guy, to be fair, has been like shocked, but probably bought into it as well, that he was going to get all these millions.
Yeah, of course you would.
You would, wouldn't you? But then what's great about it is everybody started doing the family tree who thought that they might have an Edwards in it. So you get all these people throughout the 20th century, late 19th, 20th century, doing family trees, trying to somehow get their family tree to go back to this Mr. Edwards from 1772 who got the gift of New York. It's still going on, by the way. There's still people trying to make claims on this estate in New York.
Wow. I've read a few similar cases from other places in the world where it all comes down to one missing document.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. As far as I'm aware, and there may be people out there who knows more about this story than me, so please pop it in the comments. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think they can find the original document, well, the original lease, basically, to say you can have it for 99 years and then after that, it goes to my descendants. I don't think anybody can find that document. There are documents, I think there's a document in an archive in Wales that is a Victorian document, I think, that, you know, talks about this story. But nobody's quite sure whether this is fact or fiction. And you've got one arm of the argument saying, no, you give us back our land, you know, we should have had it back. And then you've got the other side going, there's no proof.
Well, yeah, and they're already in possession of the land.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And I think they've actually sold some of it off. I might be wrong there, but I think they've actually, by this point, sold some of it off.
Yeah, probably.
They would be so rich. There's so many articles, by the way, that I'm going to put them in the description below or in the show notes, because there are even articles from like 1994 from like, you know, a couple of women in 1994 who were really keen to get their hands on this land. What I also loved about this story was H.C. Edwards, the person who's due to inherit. He would become, by the way, the richest man in the world if this was to happen. Gave a little quote. He said, "I have kept no record of the number of letters I have received since I learned of my good luck. But there are scores and hundreds of them, and I destroy them as fast as I can. At first I read a few of them, but they are all the same telling me how much they think of me and how they have longed to know where I've been all these years. And there have been all kinds of schemes presented, and charitable societies have also been solicitous."
Well, there's nothing like good fortune to expand your family tree.
Do you want to see a picture of him?
Oh, yeah, please. Oh, look at this. He looks like he should get 400 million.
Yeah.
Like, he looks like the kind of guy who could probably go, you know what, I'm going to make good use of this money. If nothing else, just to buy a new hat.
Now, I don't actually know what happened to H.C. Edwards after this article. I know what happened more broadly with the money and the schemes and things. So if he appears in your family tree, you've been doing a bit of research on him, let me know.
Maybe he's hiding with Elvis.
Maybe.
So you've done sort of genealogical probate research before, haven't you?
Yeah, so the first show that I ever did here in the UK was a show called Heir Hunters, and they did just that. So every Friday, a list gets released from the British government of unclaimed estates, and if those estates are not claimed, that money goes to the British government, doesn't it? So Heir Hunters was working with different probate firms to go and find these descendants. Obviously, they were getting a commission, the probate firms, but these people were also going to inherit, money that they didn't know that they were going to inherit. So yes, I've done a few shows like
Anything like in the sort of $400 million mark?
Absolutely not. No.
See, my takeaway from that is get your affairs in order.
Yeah, make a will.
Well,
Make a will. What do you think about wills as a historical document?
Oh man, I love a will.
You know what I love the most is who's not on it. So it's not who's on it, right? It's who have they missed off.
Yeah, but so the whole probate packet. So it's not just the will. Sometimes it comes as a probate packet, which has the will in it. I've found marriage records in the probate packets. I've found divorce records. I've found
children you didn't know about.
Absolutely. I've found receipts for assets in a probate packet. And for me, it's not the people that are excluded. It's the people that are included, but in a way that's been really dismissive. So some guy, who might be worth £5 million, and I leave my son Alfred £10. And it's not like I haven't just overlooked you. I've looked at you, and I think you're only worth 10 quid. And it's like the final word, and it's just brutal when you see it. But I do love a will. I remember reading something about Shakespeare's will where he left his bed to his wife. And it's just those little things like that, the little personal insights, little bits and pieces of their life that they've accumulated over the years, that they've thought enough about to know, I want this to go to this particular person. Have you got something you're going to leave behind to someone?
Yeah, my dog's getting everything. So I'm an avid collector of Northern art pictures. He's getting all that. He's going to get the house. He's going to get the vegetable patch, the one with the garden. Hope he can drive because he can have my car as well.
I'm reasonably confident you're going to outlive your dog.
Anyway, Brad, what have you got for us this week?
So my story I found whilst listening to another podcast.
What? You listen to other podcasts?
Yeah, so a big shout out to the podcast You're Wrong About, which Sarah Marshall does. And she was talking about a completely different topic. But this woman's name came up, this woman, Opal Whiteley. And she was telling a little bit of the story. And I went, I've got to find out more about who this person was. So Opal she was a writer. Predominantly she was a writer, but she was a naturalist. But she was also something of a savant. She was quite a precocious child. She interacted with nature and understood nature in a way that most people don't, but was also really skilled at writing about it. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of an excerpt of something that she wrote, perhaps something she's most well known for. And this is the reconstruction of her diary that she allegedly wrote when she was 6. But there's a bit of a story behind that. By and by, we were come from the tent to this lumber shanty. It has got a divide in it. One room we do have sleeps in. In the other room, we do have breakfast and supper. Back of the house are some nice wood rats. The most lovely of them all is Thomas Chatterton Jupiter Zeus. By the woodshed is a brook. It goes singing on. Its joy song does so sing my heart. Under the house live some mice. I give them bread scraps to eat. Under the steps lives a toad. He and I, we are friends. I have named him. I call him Lucian Horace Ovid Virgil.
She wrote that at the age of 6.
allegedly.
Okay, that's impressive.
So she's clearly, when you look at the other works that she's done, she's clearly an intelligent, very well read, very articulate person. And if you like, I was looking at some of her stuff, and she's like a science communicator, right? And this is, we're talking, this is 1920s. And she clearly has a talent, and is clearly intelligent and articulate. But she'd been to university, so she was educated. And a newspaper publisher got wind of her and said to her, "Have you written anything?" "Oh, I have a diary from when I was 6, but I only have fragments of it." "Oh, can you recreate it?" "Yes." And so she recreated this diary, and this is an excerpt from that recreation.
Right, okay.
And there's a lot of debate about, did she recreate it or did she just create it? It sounds like an adult trying to be a child rather than a child. But when you look at her history, she was a precocious child. She was very smart, very intelligent. She was well read at a young age. So it's not impossible. It's one of those things that just, it's on that knife edge, Is it fact? Is it fiction? The only person who really knows is Opal, and she can't tell us anymore. But I thought, okay, who is this person? So I found a story, quite a big story actually. She claimed to be the illegitimate daughter of Henri, Prince of Orleans.
Right, okay.
Her story was he had this child and gave this child to her parents.
Right.
And her parents brought her up as their own.
Okay.
So this woman was like just a fascinating character. She'd travelled to India and all these places, but she'd always, ever since she'd had this voice in the media, she'd always said that she was actually French royalty.
And that was the story she stuck to?
She stuck to that.
Okay.
Throughout.
And from what you got when you were reading it, did people buy into it? Did they believe it?
Yeah.
Oh, did they? Right.
Yeah. But it has been one of those things that has been quite polemic.
Yeah.
It's divided people. So I was going through the newspapers to see, well, what can I find? And this story comes from Portland, Oregon, and it was also in the Oregon Daily Journal. Same newspaper that your story was in. Now, you've got to remember, when we do this, I don't know what stories Michala's researching. She doesn't know what stories I do. We find that out when we sit down
today.
Here.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a surprise to hear your story.
Yeah.
It's Monday, June 6th, 1921. This is a page 1 story. Opal is quite a big thing, right?
Okay, that's why she's on the front cover.
That's why she's on the front page. And, she's a little bit of a local hero. The headline reads, "Opal's diary is refuted by grandmother."
So the grandmother's called her out.
The grandmother has called her out.
Wow.
It's a really interesting account because it's getting a family's view of Opal's story. And there's a line that I want to, that I'll read out. The journalist says, "The aged woman insists that Opal has sold her birthright and slandered the name of her good mother."
Wow.
So the family is not buying this story, right? They're just going, she's making it all up.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure why she told the story of the royal connection,
Okay.
but she did cling to it for most of her adult life. And some people have speculated that she was a bit of a fantasist, and it was perhaps something of a mental illness, which is really interesting when you look at the later half of her life. She married at least once that we know of. She married in 1931, though that ended in divorce, but not until 1952, though I think they separated a lot before that. But by then, she was living in England. And in fact, I did find her on the 1939 register in England under her assumed royal name, listing her occupation as author and archaeologist, which I felt was quite
Bit of a stretch.
But definitely an author. And she goes by the name of Francois M.H.M. Lee, I think it's Bourbon d'Orléans.
Okay.
So, all of them
Yeah.
there. And I struggled to find her because I was looking for her by her birth name.
Of course you were.
But
Yeah.
I found her. And so, okay, I found her in England. But then what happens next? Well, she seems to disappear from the public eye. And I think in 1948, she is found living really destitute.
Mm-hmm.
And she's institutionalized. And then she's placed into the care of staff at Knapsbury Hospital, which was until I think really sometime in the 21st century, was essentially a psychiatric hospital. Yeah. And she stayed there until she died in 1992 at 95 years old.
Wow.
So she was there a long, long time, and she was known to the staff as the princess.
Oh.
Which just really got me here. They bought into her world.
Yeah.
Now, we'll never know if that was a true story or not, or if that was just something that she made up about herself. She's an absolutely fascinating woman, and there's not enough time in this podcast to give her story justice. But there's two things I've got for you. I've got a picture of her. This is her. And just for those on the audio version of this podcast, I'm holding up a picture of a young woman.
Who looks like Alice from Alice in Wonderland.
Yes, she does, doesn't she?
Yeah, very long dark hair, beautiful face. Looks like she's holding butterflies.
Well, it's clearly a staged photo. But it's beautiful and somewhat whimsical. And so I tried to find out what happened to her after she died. Where did she end up? And she ended up probably at the poshest address possible in London. She's in Highgate Cemetery.
Wow, right, okay.
Now, Highgate Cemetery, for those of you who are not familiar with it, it's a beautiful cemetery, very full cemetery these days. It's North London, isn't it? You call it North London?
It's like the Buckingham Palace of cemeteries.
Yeah.
Everybody who's anybody is buried in that cemetery.
Yeah, it is like, and if you're ever in London and you like cemeteries, you've got to go to Highgate.
I love a cemetery.
But even better, I have a picture of her headstone. And it says, Francois Marie de Bourbon-Orléans, and then in brackets, Opal Whiteley. Died 17th of February, 1992, aged 95 years. And in quotes, it has, I spake as a child, which no doubt is lifted from her diary. And there's a picture of her on the headstone. This grave stone picture comes from the wonderful Find a Grave website, which is just awesome. I think she inspired a lot of people to get a lot closer to nature. Whether the works that she created were, fact or fiction, I think the job was done. She found a way for people to connect to the world and to become more aware of the environment and to find a special relationship with it. I find her story fascinating, and I'd love to know the truth behind it, but I think it's one of those things that's just going to be lost to history. So that's my story about the wonderful Opal Irene Whiteley.
What a beautiful story, and what a fantastic grave. So, shall we move on to our extra read all about it?
So, what have you got for me, Michala? What's your extra read all about it today?
I have got something that you love. Beer. I thought you'd like this one. In fact, I think you would like to have been here at the time. This is the Great Beer Flood of 1814. It was taken from the Washington Post from Wednesday, the 5th of February, 1919, and it was on page 6. So over 100 years since this happened, but they were reporting on it. And the thing that got me straight away was beer flood drowns 8. So 8 people die because of a beer flood. Have you ever heard anything like this? So in 1814, basically a vat burst and a flood of beer came rushing out into Tottenham Court Road and Oxford Street, which is in London, for those that have never been to London before. Apparently, it made tenement walls collapse, swept people off their feet, drowned 8, it says fortunate mortals. I would probably say they were pretty unfortunate if they died of a beer flood.
Well, I am a fan of beer, but beer that's been running down Tottenham Court Road, I think I'd probably pass.
With no real sewer system then? While hundreds were rendered helplessly intoxicated by their immoderate draughts from the tidal wave of beer. The catastrophe was the talk of the town for weeks, and Parliament basically looked into it and tried to pass a vote authorising the return of all the beer to the person who owned the brewery.
So people were sampling the beer as it flowed past them. Can you imagine the smell of what it must have smelt like after that beer had settled? It would have smelt like my teenage bedroom.
Not great.
Stale beer and despair.
Yeah, and regret. Yeah, I mean, some people say, by the way, some reports said that the tidal wave of beer was 40 feet high.
What?
Can you imagine a 40-foot tidal wave of beer coming towards you?
As much as I love beer, I don't think I'd want that.
And let's be honest, let's just unpick this a minute. The water in 1814 wouldn't have been great.
No, which is why there was so much beer about.
Yeah.
Look, if I had to have something written on my death certificate as cause of death, that's probably number 2.
Drowning from beer.
Yeah.
What would be number 1?
It's not fit for this podcast.
I'm saying nothing.
Now,
anyway, have you got...
I do.
A story for me?
I do. And, let's finish on a more sobering story. I wanted to go, what are people reading at a particular point in history?
Okay.
So this comes from the Journal in Caldwell in Ohio. It's Thursday, the 28th of November. It's 1946. And there's a little thing called library notes. And it's from the librarian, Miss Cynthia Morris. And what she's doing is she's listing all the recent acquisitions for the library.
Okay.
So telling people, you can come and borrow these books. Now, I've read through all these books, and I'll give you some new juvenile titles, include Cowboy Boots.
Okay.
Once is Forever.
Sounds like a love story. Keep going.
Bisty Finds the Clue.
Murder Mystery.
And Meredith's Anne.
Oh, don't know.
Heart of Danger.
Love story.
Yeah. And Mockasm Trail, which I guess is probably kind of a westerny type thing. There's a bunch of other things. The only thing that jumped out at me that I kind of went, I think I know this one. It's a non-fiction title.
Okay.
Anna and the King of Siam. If I was to say The King and I.
Yes.
So
I love The King and I.
King and I. So this is 1946.
Yeah.
This book came out in 1944.
Okay.
And Oscar Hammerstein converted it into a musical in 1951. And then it became a movie called The King and I, where Yul Brynner
That's correct. Yeah.
played the King of Siam. And it's probably one of the earliest filmic references I've got. Now, it came out, I think, in 1956, which was a long time before I was born. So I was watching it quite possibly on the television. But it was like, oh, wow. Until that point, I didn't kind of realize it was actually published as a non-fiction work, because I believe it's based loosely off a true story. And it just fascinated me to read all these different things that people were going to their library to get, and the way they were pulling people into the library. But the other thing that jumped out at me, and it was the library hours. And 10 till 4:30, Monday through Saturday, 6 to 8 on Saturday evenings. So you could spend your Saturday evening at the library.
That sounds really nice.
It does sound really nice.
Yeah. Anyway, that is it for this week. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in again. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you want links to any of the stories that we've got, if you're watching on YouTube, you can find those in the comment section. And if you're listening on audio, you can find those in the show notes. And if you want to reach out to us, our socials are
at Dr. Michala Hulme.
And I'm at Brad _Argent. You can also contact newspapers via @newspapers.com and Ancestry @Ancestry.
And if you've got any cool stories that you have found on newspapers.com, please drop them in the comments. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you haven't done already. Thank you so much, folks. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Behind the Headlines of History is a podcast from Ancestry and newspapers.com. All newspaper articles are sourced from newspapers.com with additional research on Ancestry and using other sources. We recorded at the Outset Studio. The wonderful producer is Bryony Partridge. The executive producers are the fabulous Myron Angus and Victoria Welsh. Editing on this episode by Matt Birtwell.